Warning: graphic language. Mandingo, 1975. Mandingo, slavery film. The fightin' Negro film, if you like. Now, I am a huge fan of what I would call that kind of Gone with the Wind era. The Plantation. Oh, it's terrific stuff. And Mandingo, I think, is by far the best film I've come across. Now, I never did see that movie, Roots. I think it was a miniseries. Roots. I have no interest in Roots. Seems like pretty long. But I've seen quite a few, but this is without question, Mandingo is the best one because it's actually quite a hysterical film. There are so many great parts and really funny parts, like almost laugh out loud funny. And that's what makes it so great. So we're going to go through this. And again, I love the Civil War. If you're not a fan of the Civil War, get into it. Fascinating stuff. It was really the point, as far as I'm concerned, if you're a history fan, where America changed, not necessarily for the better. That kind of spirit of 1776, that ended with Lincoln, the jackass Lincoln, as I like to say, pretty much a communist. How did Granny put it from the Beverly Hillbillies? Civil War? That's when the North invaded America. So again, I'm not a fan of the North, but let's just admit that this is pretty complicated subject matter. Freemasons in the North, Masons in the South, a lot of Christian men getting killed, lots, too many. So it is tragic, nothing to laugh about. But Mandingo is fantastic, and like I said, plenty of action and the fighting Negro and lots of good jokes. So let's get to it. Okay, so let's just quickly recap the cast there. We've got the great James Mason. We've got the lovely but annoying Susan George, Perry King you might recognize, and introducing Ken Norton. Yes, the heavyweight, the boxer Ken Norton. And if that isn't enough, we've even got the opening song there, Muddy Waters. So already, terrific, terrific. And one last shout out to Paul Benedict. He was Bentley on The Jeffersons, but he showed up in a bunch of movies that I enjoy. He was in Jeremiah Johnson. He was in The Man with Two Brains, Waiting for Guffman, and he actually appeared too in an episode of Seinfeld. So let's get back to Mandingo, where he plays Brown Lee, the slave trader. You want slaves, you're gonna need slave traders. So right away, we've got Brown Lee checking out the brown eye. I guess that's one of the perks of the job of the slave trader. So he is checking for hemorrhoids, maybe checking for castration, and maybe a pickle. Now, Warren Maxwell assures him that there are no altered niggers, not on his plantation. Now, this is Cicero. He's a runner. So Brownlee throws a stick, and he tells Cicero, go fetch. And then he comments, he moves fast, sound buck, good for the sugar cane. He may last 7-8 years. So Brownlee makes an offer, and Warren Maxwell takes the deal. And then we meet Hammond. This is Maxwell's son, and he's got news about Big Pearl. So they've called Doc Redfield to check out Big Pearl, because she's been ailing. But it turns out she's just a virgin. And she ain't sick. She just craving. She in the butter heat. So Warren Maxwell's got a nice little compliment for Doc Redfield. Ain't nothing he don't know about nigger nature and nigger symptoms. So Hammond's got to pleasure her. And it is the master's duty to pleasure the wench first time. That'll set her right. So Warren's doing all right when he's got a couple little kids waving peacock feathers while you're enjoying dinner. Now, Warren wants to know if Hammond is all ready to go for that Big Pearl. And Hammond's like, sure, Dad, but she's powerful musky. Powerful musky. And then we meet Agamemnon, and he's terrific, and he's a lazy no-good. He knows he ain't got no soul. And he best be spry, or Warren's gonna tan his hide. And Warren has no love for the abolitionists, and he believes that slavery was ordained by God. We also learn that Warren suffers from the rheumatiz, but there's apparently some good old-fashioned cures, like pressing your feet hard on a little small black child. The rheumatiz just flows right out through the feet. So as you can see, Hammond has a bit of a crooked walk. That's because when he was 6, he was thrown from a pony and it stepped on his knee. That was about the time his mama died. So Lucretia Borgia, she's helping out bathing Big Pearl, trying to get rid of that powerful musk. So it's time for Hammond and Big Pearl to get it on. But she's got to help him with his boots, 'cause he's a cripple. Now Cicero, he's all chained up. He's complaining about the Peckerwood getting it on with the black girl, but he's teaching Agamemnon to read. Unfortunately, Hammond catches Agamemnon reading, so you know what you get for reading. So here's that remedy for the rheumatiz I was telling you about. You gotta keep those feet pressed hard in his little belly to get that rheumatiz to flow right out. So Hammond tells his father about Mem reading. Reading? That dumbass blockhead nigger. Warren suggests we put out an eye. Works just as good and don't give no more trouble. But Hammond turns out to be kind of a nice guy. He says, Dad, I'll just give him a good whipping. Just a good larping. So this is what Warren tells his son. Whoop him fierce. Hammond, you gotta cut deep. 'Cause a nigger don't feel physical punishment as soon as a white man. And you rub in the pemetate in after. Hurts like hell, but heals the scars clean. And you tell Lucretia Borgia to use fresh red pepper in the pemetate. And fresh lemon. And plenty of salt. Plenty of salt, I say. Now, when I first heard this, I didn't know what pemetate was. And I looked it up. And it is some kind of like fish sauce. Interesting. And this is Dottie. And she tells Hammond that she knocked up. And could she keep her sucker? And as you can see, Hammond is a nice Christian. Now it's time for Mem to get his whooping. And that'll learn him for reading. And ooh, a lot of yelling and screaming. Yikes from Mem. But Hammond doesn't do the paddling. No, that's not his style. And you can tell he's a little bit stressed out by it. Especially when the bleeding starts. But then this dandy comes out of nowhere and starts lecturing. He says, you ain't doing it right. You gotta do it harder, two-handed. He starts whooping that Mem, and Mem is just howling. But this pisses off Hammond, and he jumps in even with his gamey leg, and he says, who the hell are you to touch my niggers? But it turns out to be just Charles. He's like, Cousin Hammond, don't you recognize me? We was just littlins. It's your Cousin Charles. And then there's a little bit of talk about Cousin Charles' little sister, Blanche, and of course, an heir to Falconhurst. So Cousin Charles and his family are looking for a loan. So Warren tells Hammond, will you just go check out this Blanche, and if this white woman ain't to your liking, we'll keep looking, and they don't get the money. And while you're at it, check out this Mandingo for breeding. Not reading, breeding. So the Mandingo Hammond was looking for unfortunately got killed by a bull. And Charles mentions Mandingos, dem's good fighting niggers. And being a gracious host, he's got a couple wenches for the boys to rape. And Charles is not interested in the virgin, and right away he starts kissing that wench. And Hammond comes and said, Cousin Charles, why are you kissing her on the mouth? And just like that, Charles whips off his belt and starts whipping that wench. And the look on her face is priceless. Good Lord, I think this is when I actually started laughing out loud. It's a good thing she likes it too, doesn't you, pretty wench? Yes, massa. Now, like I said, Hammond is a good kid. You know, he's not into all this larping and whooping, right? You know, he'll rape a wench, but he draws the line. So Hammond and this wench hit it off for some reason. Go figure. And believe it or not, Hammond kisses her on the mouth. So it's slave buying time. And here we meet Ganymede, or just Mead for short. Now the German widower, she wants that book for pleasuring. But Hammond outbids her, 4,500. He's got the Mandingo his pa always wanted. He gonna come fetch him in a couple days. So they all head down to Crowfoot, where you meet Blanche. And this is classic. Hammond come a-courtin'. But Charles is being a bit of a dick, mentioning that if Hammond don't marry Blanche, they ain't gonna get the money, and as you can see, Blanche is all upset. So Blanche is set on marrying Hammond. He's rich, good looking. But Charles says, I'll tell him what we done. So if you're a little freaked out about the kissing cousins, ooh, brother and sister action going on here. Yikes. So Hammond and Blanche go for a little walk, and Hammond asks her if he can carry her to church. And it looks like he's proposing, and they seal it with not just a little cousin kiss, but a passionate kiss. Kissing cousins. Okay, and I just want to talk about Susan George here for a little bit, because I love Susan George. 3 big movies. So you got Mandingo, Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, and Straw Dogs. And like she's terrible, like as a character in all those movies. She's so annoying, like the worst wife, the worst girlfriend. But I do love that Susan George, and she's a hottie. I'm sorry, a good-looking chick. So the wedding night doesn't go quite as planned for Blanche. Does Blanche actually think Hammond doesn't know a virgin when he's pleasuring her? Blanche claims that she was pure, but Hammond knows he's been screwing those virgin wenches forever. Blanche insists she's never done it, but Hammond says, you disgust me. So Hammond and Brown Lee head to the whorehouse down in New Orleans. But Hammond, he's always been a little bit shy around the white woman because of his cripple. So as the whores are whoring it up, a fight breaks out in the courtyard with Meade. So all the Johns and the prostitutes come out and they start cheering, and suddenly everybody's placing bets. Fight, fight, fight! And it is a good fight. And Meade kicks his ass.
I proclaim Meade the victor!
And Mr. Big Shot here wants to buy Meade. He says he'll pay double, $9,000. But Hammond says no, he ain't for sale. So in that case, they schedule a fight. He must fight my Mandingo in 2 months. Hammond agrees. So on the way back to Falconhurst, Hammond stops by and buys that wench he was all sweet on. Blanche don't like this Ellie, and she gives her the evil eye. And Lucretia Borgia, she's just pleased as punch as she's got a nice little white mistress to care for. And Warren sees that Hammond has bought a Mandingo. A wife and a Mandingo. A great day at Falconhurst. So Warren wants to get the breeding going with Big Pearl and Mandingo Meade. But Hammond's got the papers, and it turns out they're actually brother and sister. This doesn't bother Warren, but Hammond says, well, what if the sucker turns out to be a monster? Warren says, we'll just snuff it out. And Warren warns Hammond about Ellen, his bed wench. White ladies may not like to be pestered, but they don't like their husbands getting tender with a wench. So on Falconhurst, they got a big pot of brine, and they're gonna be cooking up some Mandingo soup. Well, that'll toughen his hide. So Hammond tells Agamemnon to take care of Meade. Yes, sir, massa. Yes, sir. So Blanche is a little bit upset. She's hitting the toddies pretty hard because Hammond is ignoring her. All you talk about is your niggers, she says. So Hammond spends his evenings with Ellen, and she knocked. And we ain't selling this sucker. We gonna keep him, raise him right here on Falconhurst. And Hammond promises that wench that their sucker will go free. So Cicero's gone back to running, and he's done this to the white folks. Goes to show, reading leads to killing. So Meade catches Cicero, tackles that runner. And then Cicero, with his neck in a noose, tries to lecture all the Peckerwoods, but he don't know shit about history. So we got ourselves a good old-fashioned lynching. So the boys are off to New Orleans for Meade's big Mandingo fight. And this gives Blanche the perfect opportunity to whip that wench Ellen. When she hears that Ellen is knocked, she go crazy. Let's watch.
Filthy, dirty, dirty, dirty pig! You hear me? You're a pig! A whore! A goddamn whore! A pig! You dumb animal! Dumb! Fornicated!
Lucretia Borgia hears all the noise and she comes running to the rescue. But you can guess what happens next. That's gotta hurt. So we got Meade versus Topaz, a seasoned fighter. And Meade just gets his ass kicked. Topaz is kicking his ass in the first round. And Topaz goes for your old thumbs in the eyeballs maneuver. But Topaz is just too good, kicking Meade's ass. And Hammond, to protect Meade, he yields the fight. He starts screaming, "I yield the fight," to protect Meade. And this inspires Meade. So Meade comes back with a left, and a right, and another left, and suddenly we got a bit of a fair fight. But that Topaz, he's a biter, and he bites a chunk out of Meade's leg. So if the Topaz can bite, so can Meade, and he takes a nice bite out of his neck. Let's see how this ends. Joy all around as Hammond's Mandingo wins the fight. So Hammond comes back to Falconhurst, and he's got a present for Ellen and his wife Blanche, but not the smartest gift. Blanche loves her necklace, but when she sees Ellen with the matching earrings, ooh, that's gotta hurt. And this was the moment Blanche tells Hammond that it was Charles who deflowered her, but it was just that one time, and they were 13. Kinky. So it's slave selling time, and all the slaves are crying because all the families are being broken up. But you gotta admit, that Warren, he owns a lot of slaves. So sounds like they're going down to New Orleans. So Hammond's going to be gone for a little while, taking Ellen with him. Now, if you happen to have a good look at that movie poster, I think you know what's coming next. That Blanche, she needs pleasuring, if you know what I mean. And it gets a little bit hot and steamy here. So Hammond finally comes back from selling all those slaves, and Blanche has good news for him. She's knocked. She gonna have a sucker. Now Ellen is feeling a little bit nervous, a little bit frightened of the future. So we're coming to the end here, and spoiler alert, all is revealed. So if you don't want to know, turn it off right now. But let's get right to the climax. So it's months later, and Blanche is in labor. Ooh, and again, that's gotta hurt. And you guessed it, it turns out the baby ain't white. Doc Redfield has the remedy. We're gonna just untie the cord and let it bleed out. Doc tells Hammond that the child, he dead, but Hammond wants to see for himself. And here, he's seeing for the first time that his child is a black child. Now let's just say Blanche right now, she's feeling a little bit nervous. A little bit nervous, you can tell. So Hammond gets the poison, brings it up to Blanche, and he says, You hush now. You just rest, relax. You just drink this. Oh, and Hammond is pissed off. He's got the shotgun. He looks for Mead, and he tells Mead, You go fill up that kettle and put plenty of firewood underneath. And sure enough, just like I said before, a little Mandingo soup going down at Falconhurst. Hammond tells Mead, Get in. And he says, No, massa. And then he points the gun. Mead tells him he always respected him. He always didn't think he was like other white folk. Hammond shoots him in the shoulder. Let's just roll a quick clip.
Just wait.
Agamemnon comes to Mead's rescue, but Hammond just shuffles him off, and he lands on the gun. He picks up the gun and points it at Hammond. You drop that rifle, Mem, or else. And that's when Warren comes out and starts pointing his stick, and he says, You loony black bastard. And Agamemnon shoots Warren. Dead. He drops the gun and he just shuffles off. But Hammond, he's so freaked out. He's like, Pa, Dad, Pa. The end. Mandingo. 6.3 on IMDb, which is laughable. I'm going to give Mandingo 1975 10 out of 10. 10 stars. Fantastic movie. Oh, so quotable. I'm not going to go through it all over again, but oh, powerful muskie. And plenty of salt. Terrific.